Welcome to the Bad Tutors podcast. If you're here for the newest, up-to-date, and accurate information on the nerdy topics that are near and dear to your heart, well, let me tell you, you ended up in the wrong place. Here we are all about hot takes and grandiose displays of misinformation, so stick along for the ride and you might just blow a blood vessel or two. So Tyler, this week, as we kind of said in the last episode, we're going to be handing off back and forth talking about two different subjects for the decent future here, I think, for both of us. We got some stuff planned out. I am sticking to SCP, as I said, and that is going to kind of look like this for a little bit. There's one really big story that I want to tell overall that might take up some time, but it's SCP, and as you've learned from the couple that we've done and just a little bit that you've interacted with it, they intertwine a lot and there's a lot to discuss, so I can kind of just tell a story without having a bunch of asides to put away about it. So I'm going to be covering some smaller topics going forward, maybe one or two of them on the weeks when I talk about it, but I think that's going to be a bit of my format, just so we can tell a coherent story easier when it's time to finally tell that story, because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a collaborative writing forum that all of the internet can add to. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a lot of people tying into stories that other people wrote, and callbacks or call forwards, or references and stuff. That's all going to be.
It may or may not introduce a multiverse. Luckily, we don't have to deal with it very much. Don't worry, but it may or may not be there.
Hey, multiverses are big right now.
They are, and this is an old one, to be fair, so it was before they got big. We just happened to be covering it at the time that it's big. But today, I want to talk about SCP-001. And as you know, as I'm fairly certain we talked about, SCP-001 can be a number of things. There is no certain nature as to what SCP-001 is. It could be, and as you just said, it's a collaborative writing project and everyone wants to be number one. I think this is one of the more accepted number ones as an entity. I believe we might have even talked about it when we first talked about SCP. I don't know if you remember.
I think so, yeah. You said that this is like your SCP-001.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Gate Guardian. Oh yes, because I talked about this in how the SCP Foundation was formed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this guy, or at least in a little bit more detail, because there are some interesting things about him that I really liked, and you might need to know it a little bit in the future. So to start off, this version of SCP-001, just to keep simplicity, I'm going to be referring to him from now on as the Gate Guardian. We're not going to try and hide who we're talking about, because there's a lot of 001s. Now this one is object class either Euclid or Keter, based entirely off of the entity itself. And that sounds a little strange. But what this particular SCP is a very large guardian located out of Site 0, which can be found between, or where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers intersect. Right around the Fertile Crescent. I believe a lot of people say that is kind of like where life and civilization started in the ancient world. And this Gate Guardian be guarding a gate. Wild shit. I know. It's a little shocking. You gotta stay with me here. But it is actually under like a 24/7 observation by the Foundation, as like most things are, of course. But this is much more specifically not for research purposes, but to show that if it were to change behaviors in absolutely any way, pretty much from what we see in the day-to-day operation, or not operations, but the day-to-day things that it does, which, as I'll discuss in a second, is absolutely nothing. It could bring on a Patmos XK class end of the world scenario, which is, in this context, a very fancy way to say a biblical ending to the world. The Patmos, I dove into it a little bit. It's like 3 Latin translations down of different things. It's just biblical is what that is referring to, is the easier way to think about it. So I'm going to hop around in my script a little bit here, but as I said, keeping with kind of a biblical nomenclature, this entity measures around 700 cubits in height, which, let me get a quick translation for you there. That's going to be about, it's about a 1.5 feet. Oh, it's just a meter. A cubit's just a meter. Okay, that's not, I mean, it's still pretty fucking big.
So it's 700
meters. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty big. And in most ways, it appears humanoid. Now, one of the things, the only reason that I really say it doesn't appear humanoid, other than being 700 meters tall, and it has a number of very bright wings, like fiery red wings that it's been said between like 2 and like over 100 different wings coming from various points of the body, but the most common number that people see when they observe this entity is normally 4. Now, as I was burying the lead a little bit, this seems to be some kind of an angel, possibly, depending on, what faiths are real and fictional within the SCP universe. And the fact that it can have like hundreds of wings makes me think that it could, in theory, be a biblical angel still, even though, like, I'm going to describe some other things, but it appears to different people as different things, it would seem. SCP-001, the Gate Guardian, also carries a sword, or sometimes described as a knife of flames, which temperatures rival that of the sun, which I would like to point out that being 700 meters tall and a sword, the temperature of the sun, it's still weaker than like some pretty basic Pokemon when you get down to it. Just on heat alone, just like Macargo is like way hotter than this, so clearly it's stronger. That's all I'm saying. I just wanted to point that out.
Sure. But you have to consider typing and everything like that.
Oh, that's true. But human isn't a type in Pokemon for some reason. They won't let us have that. I don't know why. Weird. I know, right? That'd be really strange. I haven't quite figured out why they won't let us have human type. But with this flaming sword, which is something that all of our biblical historians that listen are going to be unhappy with me for this, but I swear that I do remember at least one of the archangels in the Bible also having a flaming sword that I believe was used to defend what we may or may not think is the Garden of Eden. But there might be a lot of different stories and lore melding in my brain to make that assumption, but I believe that is what one of them used. So some angel with a flaming sword is guarding a gate, believe it or not. As I've said, the Gate Guardian, those 2 words are going to come up a lot. And anytime something gets within 1 kilometer of the Gate Guardian, it seems that it is instantly struck with this weapon and removed completely from existence. And the same actually goes for any acts of aggression towards it. The Foundation, in fact, at one point tried to nuke it, and it in turn killed everyone on the submarine that fired it, which was more than 1 kilometer away, so it can still kill things at a distance, as well as detonating the bomb itself, which, isn't the best, and it ended up killing thousands of innocent people and it actually nearly revealed the SCP Foundation to the world. As one can imagine, a nuke going off, it raises some questions from people. There's a lot of different people that want to know why a random nuke went off. So when they fired this nuke, and it not only killed every member of the submarine and a lot of other people, and you can also find more information on this in the Indian Ocean Submarine Missile Experiment from December 26, 2004. You know, great naming. The SCP Foundation was really out there with their naming schemes this time. No operations or anything, just
it's just an experiment with a missile from a submarine in the Indian Ocean.
I don't know what could have happened in there, but they talk about that, and it's obviously, like I said, people are asking questions when a nuke is fired, so there was a lot of hiding things and covering things up when the Gate Guardian was able to block a nuke coming towards it. And what we've found about him, there have been not too many experiments, actually. All of this information is coming from what is known as Dr. Clef's proposal. As I said, there isn't even really an official SCP-001, so this is just within the universe, it would be one of the doctor's proposals for it. And every time he's been observed, he's doing that like classic knight stance of like kneeling with your forehead on your sword as it's in front of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know a different way to describe that, but he's been doing that the whole time, and every time they see him, he has never once moved, even like a millimeter here or there. He's never moved at all, which is very interesting because it is very clearly his sword that we know that is extinguishing people from existence, to use some more florid language. And the fact that he's never moved at all and can just be basically omnipresent is a little scary for the Foundation, obviously, hence it being both Euclid and Keter, because Euclid, it doesn't really move. It clearly has a job, that it knows what the job is, and it doesn't really want to stray from it. So in theory, it's very easy to contain. It doesn't want to move. We don't want it to move. Don't fucking touch it and it won't move, probably. Makes sense. But it has the possibility to be Keter, because clearly if it decides that it has to move, for whatever reason, shit just got really bad for sure. Which is, I mean, I want to be like, man, that's very concerning. But like, so is literally everything in this lore. So when you're like, it's this weird thing of when you're comparing different end of the world scenarios, it's like, well, there's a million of them. Is this one really worse than this one? And this one's just kind of funny and interesting because of some of the security protocols that it has around it, which is another reason that I actually wanted to talk about this one. There list a couple things of what you should do if something goes wrong. This would, of course, be the overseer of a specific site that has these instructions, as well as there is specifically one person that has the actual location of SCP-001 as the Gate Guardian, and it is specifically an overseer that is a member of the Abrahamic faith, which is about to come up a lot, which is the only reason why I mention it.
It's not a member of the O5 Council?
It is actually not. I thought that for a second, but it's actually not a member of the O5 Council. This is just like an overseer that I assume is at either Site 01 or I believe it's Site 9 or 11 that like a lot of the like main things within the story happen at, or within the world happen at. I can't remember which one. They are to consult the Patmos series of emergency orders. And from there, they are, of course, to transmit it to all Foundation like head sites, not like to individual people, but just like, I assume they have a button that says "fuck it, tell everyone," is just how I like to picture it. And those then with vital roles within the SCP Foundation should do a number of things that I found very funny just reading them. Even within context, I just thought it was a very interesting thing. The first thing they should do is check with someone like a priest to make sure that they have a good relationship within the Abrahamic faith, which, as I'm sure you can tell, I know you weren't religious growing up, but clearly this seems to be some genuine biblical angel that was set to guard something. So the fact that they're like, oh yeah, if something goes wrong with this, make sure you're good with Christian God specifically, otherwise you might be fucked, is just like extra funny to me. Because like, even though there is SCP-343 God, like that's a thing in the SCP universe, I guess I just never kind of considered, Abrahamic faiths being around, like just kicking it, just doing whatever they normally do. But it's like, oh yeah, that's like real too. Like God is real, the devil is real, and also maybe this God, like capital G God, is real. Just very interesting.
Yeah, I do want to quickly jump in here. Abrahamic faith applies to all of those faiths that like descend from followers of Moses. Sorry. So that would be Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's not just Christian.
Correct. Yes, that's just my the flavor of Abrahamic faith that I was raised in, so it's where I go first.
Right. Yeah. Well, I got zero faith flavor. I got cilantro flavored, so it just tasted like soap to me.
Oh no!
So it never really stuck.
It's over. Another thing, of course, once you've made good with God, it would seem, is to carry some kind of blessed or holy item from the Abrahamic faiths. This could be just so many things. I'm not going to start listing symbols of faith. And another part is if they have a vital role, of course, then they must pass all of their information, or at least, have some way to access all of the information that they are privy to, handed down to a member of the non-Abrahamic faith, in case this is the biblical rapture. Oh. Like the one that we hear about where they like take all the good Christians. They're like, well, yeah, if that happens in this, the Gate Guardian causes it, or anything else that would fall under the Patmos XK class scenarios, someone that isn't a Christian Jewish person or someone that follows the Islamic faith, they have to know this information as well, which, like, if we're thinking objectively, of course, like a foundation that was dealing with this kind of information and knowledge would literally need to have something like that set up, some kind of a contingency like that. But it's just so funny to be reading it in this context. Like, it's not what I expected to be reading about, And it just makes me laugh for some reason to be like, oh yeah, you better go check your faith. You better carry that cross that's supposed to be around your neck. Oh, and just in case all of that is also true, make sure the guy that follows Buddhism has all of your information. So when you get taken by the rapture, the foundation can still fucking continue. It all makes sense, but it's just like very funny to read it all to me. I don't know why. Oh, and then of course you should know any other biblical entities and SCP Foundation anomalies that are out there, which to hop down just a little bit, Cain and Abel are also SCPs. If you didn't know that, they're SCP. Let me make sure. I believe they are SCP-073 and 076 respectively for Cain and Abel.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so we have, as I said, we have God, like a guy that says he's God. Whether or not he is a different question. But it would then also seem we have actual capital G God, Cain and Abel, If the Ark of the Gate Guardian, if the Ark of the Covenant isn't an SCP, I'd lose my mind because there's no way it's not. I don't know it offhand, but like, fuck, it has to be. It has to be, right? Somewhere along here. That would be like the least surprising thing to read about in all of this. But something that I've kind of been hinting at a little bit is that obviously you can't really approach this. It will destroy anything that isn't meant to be there within 1 kilometer of it. But it won't instantly do it because most people that approach it will hear a booming voice in their head. Most of them things such as leave or forget, or as I'm sure we addressed in our first episode about SCP, prepare, which is what the first person that encountered this version of SCP-001 heard. And this is assumed to be 05-1, the first member and founder of not only the O5 Council, but of the SCP Foundation on whole. So those people who have either gotten within that distance to hear it, or obviously, you know, we are in the modern day within the SCP lore, there's long-range cameras. And when they try and take pictures of either the Gate Guardian or whatever stands behind it, they've not gotten very conclusive evidence. It can be a little hard to tell based off of the photography they've taken. Obviously, it's anomalous and kind of goes maybe in and out of our plane of reality or whatever, what have you, for the SCP world. But it seems to guard just a genuinely massive gate that when they've looked behind it, there are people that have seen it. There have been people that say they can see creatures of a similar makeup and build to that of the Gate Guardian itself, some that cannot. But the one thing that most people all seem to be able to see is 2 fruit-bearing trees, which brings up, of course, memories of the Garden of Eden. So it seems that possibly this could be and I'm, again, almost positive that in the Bible, or like Bible scholars like anticipate that were the Garden of Eden to be real, it would be somewhere within the Fertile Crescent, somewhere described between the Tigris and Euphrates as this one is. But I don't know if SCPs seep so far into my brain that I just believe that now. But based off of this, it seems like they could be guarding the Garden of Eden from the Bible, which is obviously where all life came from. And that is, I mean, realistically, I said this is going to be a little shorter. That's pretty much everything. I'll run through the last couple tests. We've kind of covered them a little bit, but I'll just go through just to give you a little bit more of a scale of what this thing does. It obviously, at one point, they just sent in a D-class personnel because you got to start somewhere.
Sure, yeah.
And it told him
kids.
Exactly. They yearn for the mines, and by the mines, I mean being a pile of ash. And they sent him in, and the Gate Guardian told him, leave, and he went, oh, yeah, for sure. And they went, we're going to kill you anyways. What if you don't leave? And he went, all right, fine. So he kept going, and then he was, of course, killed, but so was everyone else on the research team. Everyone that was a part of telling him to go in gathering any amount of research that was like within that crew was also killed, which is, in my mind, implying that it has maybe some sort of omniscience or something like similar to it to be able to realize the greater context of the event. It's not just like this thing is here and it's like a statue that goes, something got within a kilometer of it, it needs to die. It clearly knew that that the D-class was sent there by officers at the Foundation and also killed them. So like I'd assume it would be able to think and like reason these things out. Obviously, we have no real uh, research on this for a number of different reasons, but that's my read on it at the very least. Then they send in like one unmanned drone, and as soon as it hits the kilometer mark, it just gets struck out of the air immediately, which would assume it couldn't hear and couldn't respond to mind messages, so it just got destroyed. And then they sent out like 100 or a couple hundred of them, all going in from different locations, so making sure it's not like hitting one at a time or something, just testing. And all of them, as soon as they hit the 1 kilometer mark, were all struck down at exactly the same time, all while still monitoring SCP-001 and seeing absolutely no movement as it strikes down all of these. So it seems to just either do it at a speed that is completely incomprehensible to us, or through something that we cannot comprehend for a different mean, a different level of power that we can't even come to terms with. Then the last 2 tests that came out were by sending Cain and Abel to it. Obviously, anything biblical, you're going to call in the other biblical SCPs to see what they can do. And there's a lot there. I could probably do a decent amount on just those 2 tests on their own, but to put it in a shorter way, both Cain and Abel did not like this thing, and they were not happy to be there at all. So after this, and there was, of course, some casualties and people dying and things going wrong, because it's always how it's going to happen in the SCP Foundation, an executive order came down saying, all right, this thing looks stable, let's fucking stop. We're done experimenting on this. If we'll keep monitoring it, because if something goes wrong, then we need to know. But things can be killed with it, and that's all we need to know. If you get further into YouTube videos and things, I couldn't find, in fairness, I probably wasn't looking at the right place. I couldn't find anything of like, I just said it can pretty much kill anything. One of the big things that, like, if you're thinking SCP brained, one of the first things you'd probably think of is, well, can it kill 682, which is the unkillable lizard. And while I couldn't find anything on it in Dr. Clef's proposal, as I've been stating, I'm sure either if you go on to 682's entry, or if you look on YouTube as well, there are a lot of fan theories outside of the world of SCP of how that would go down, where most of them, of course, you can't break continuity, but if it lives, you break continuity, and if it dies, you also break continuity. So it's just, whose side do you want to work under of, yeah, this thing can kill 682, maintaining its power level that has been described, or no, 682 still lives because it's unkillable, and this is like the favorite, this is the poster boy SCP, it can't die. So then you're underplaying the power of the biblical archangel, but also maybe the archangel isn't SCP-001 in 682, is for sure 682 no matter how you look at it. So there's a lot of different things that could tie into that, and I'm sure they've used it for other things in testing, but similar to how we talked about it in Monster Hunter, once you've done the one main quest, that is officially all the monsters that you've killed. You're not doing genocide every time. Similar in the SCP Foundation. I'm sure that they've done every test you can possibly think of, but when we are considering the scope of the story that we are laying out in front of us, they did these about 6 or 8 tests, and then they fucking stopped. And then they went, we monitor this, it stays as it is, and hopefully it doesn't fucking kill literally all of us. So this overall is, I would say, a pretty simple and I believe just fairly well-known SCP overall. I think this is, as I've said, not only one of the most common beliefs of what SCP-001 is, but I think it's also just pretty well-known in and of itself of the stories for it. But that being said, you do have to suffer how I did reading about this and figuring these things out, because this is a very real line from the wiki that I had to parse through without having any of the prerequisite knowledge. Because of this event's confluence with the recent breach of SCP-995, the opening of SCP-616, and the activation of SCP-098, the Foundation is required to immediately begin preparations for an XK class end-of-the-world scenario. SCP-076 and SCP-073 are to be secured immediately. I only know what 2 of those 5 SCPs are, and it's Cain and Abel, as I previously stated. As for what the other 3 are, I was like, man, there's probably a lot there, and I opened it, and it was like thousands of words collectively between the 3 of them, and I was like, we're not going to learn about that. That's not the important part of why we're learning about the Gate Guardian today. But that's all of SCP lore. So anytime I do any kind of thing about SCP, just know that that's the kind of dense bullshit that I'm reading through most of the time. Except the only difference is nothing there was censored out. We knew what all of those SCPs were. Half the time, a third of that information would have been in black letters.
So I have a question about Cain and Abel, if Wilson will let me get it out. They were tested, or they were used in a test to send them towards the Gate Guardian. So yes. I assume based on that last line from the wiki that they survived?
Yes, they didn't really get like put in all the way. Both of them basically either Abel causes a lot of death. I don't remember exactly how. I think it's just kind of like everything around him withers and dies. And Cain is obviously just a fucking complete maniac killing machine. Have you ever seen the movie Ultraviolet? Where they they just like pull weapons from out of nothingness, and that's kind of what he does. He just like kind of reaches his hand into the void and pulls back either whatever weapon he wants or like whatever weapon is like correct for the situation. So he's always a fucking issue, obviously, as is Abel, the one that has to be fucking contained, otherwise he just everything withers and decays. They were basically seeing, all right, both of these guys are issues for us. Let's see who wins. And they both made it out alive. They've both been shown to have very powerful regenerative properties. And I didn't read, there wasn't like a whole block of like how much happened to them. Yeah, so Abel is SCP-076 when he approached, came in on the nature of this mission. When asked about the Gate Guardian, he responded, no, just no, very cryptically. And Cain has to be shipped in like this fucking incredibly safe and secured metal cube, otherwise he'll just fucking kill everyone. And he was like screaming and very distressed. He has this like symbol on his forehead that became data expunged as soon as they got by it, which is the real shit that I'm dealing with. Just brackets data expunged over the things you want to know. That's the mystery of all of this.
Yeah.
The experiment itself was terminated due to the same thing, but both of them did live through it, so we don't really know specifically what happened. But they all made it through, at the very least.
Okay.
But that's the kind of shit that I'm reading through when it comes to SCP. But overall, that is all for this version of SCP-001. I just wanted to give a little bit of context to it, not only because I think it's a cool one. I honestly, obviously, being raised a religious boy that liked swords, archangels were always super cool to me, and they still absolutely are to this day. So that's all I really got. I'm gonna be doing a decent series of these, just kind of doing brief outlines on some SCPs and SCP concepts, just so I don't have to explain context further in the future when there's other things that I want to work on. I feel like there's a decent set of these that are kind of
like canon.
Calling them stock, yeah, but like calling them canon is probably a better way to put it, just so like we have a Rolodex of information, so I can just be like, you remember how SCP-001 has a massive flame sword that obliterates everything, and you don't have to be like, I'm sorry, fucking what? And it's like, oh yeah, right, and then he tried to kill Kane. And it's like, wait, Kane is real as well? This is just going to be a lot of them for simplicity, and even though I'd say the wider SCP community, they're like pretty well-known ones, where in the past maybe I was trying to pull out some like less known ones that I just find interesting. But unless you got anything else, any questions or anything to point out in here, I think that's about all I've got for this guy.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited to see where this goes. I don't know what story you want to tell. But starting with this as building blocks is a bit spooky.
That's kind of what I'm going for, yeah. I definitely want to say that I'm building to a story, because otherwise everything that I talk about is going to be like really out of context, and not that anything in SCP has to be like in context and make sense in the order I'm telling it. That's not how the universe works. But I think having that groundwork at the very least makes it more interesting, but also it keeps everything a bit more in line. But I am going to continue to hide the actual story that I want to talk about. Right. It's a lot.
It all leads to the endless IKEA.
Dude, I fucking wish. If it did, that would actually be so funny, and I would love it. Unfortunately, endless IKEA is not mentioned that I've seen.
Damn.
That's, I believe, where we're going to leave off for now. Next time we should be back with some more Monster Hunter world building, and then back into SCP after that. But for now, I've been Ian,
and I am always Tyler,
and we hope you have a great rest of your week, weekend, day, whenever you happen to be listening to this, and we hope you will tune in to the next episode of the Bad Tutors podcast.
I'm too tired to think of a witty outro quip.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.